Okay, I've turned on the recording, and as per usual, as soon as the session is over or shortly thereafter, I'll post the video to our YouTube channel and to our website so that everyone will have access to it. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for coming today. I'm pretty excited that we're going to be demoing for the first time TransIT 7. I will tell you right off the bat that this is a demo domain, so it doesn't have all of the latest code that's still being worked on by development. So we won't be able to show everything today, but we'll take a good walk through the system. So the first thing that I'm going to do is review with everyone what the major enhancements are in the initial release, and then I'll go through and do a demo, and then we'll talk about upcoming training sessions. So there's quite a bit that's changed in TransIT 7. First of all, the entire user interface was removed and replaced, and the architecture of the user interface so that the load time of every single page is improved. So even when you go to sign on, I know everyone knows that when you reboot your computer and sign on to TransIT, it takes like 60 seconds or something to load initially. All of that's gone. We've basically replaced all of the guts of the system and are now using a modern light framework such as Bootstrap and Fetch API. So all the old code is gone. We now have better support for all of the different browsers. The HTML has been updated such that if you run TransIT on your phone, and I've been doing that for years, but now it's much easier. So it sizes to the screen and it gives you the collapsing menus like most apps do. Now you'll see when I demo, if you ever keep multiple tabs open in TransIT, it now puts the name of which page you're on into the tab heading so that it's much easier to see where you're at. And also, when you scroll now, using your scroll bar, it scrolls in conjunction with the TransIT grid. We've stopped the use of XLS files and importing and exporting and pasting from clipboard, and we'll now be using XLSX, and you will import and export choosing a file as opposed to doing the cut and paste from clipboard that we used to do. When there's something that people often forget, we sometimes have added hover text. So for example, you might know that if you go to export something to Excel, that you have to first of all do page size all. And if you do that, it's great. If you don't do that, you only get the first 100 rows. So there's a tooltip that actually tells you that, and we'll be strategically placing tooltips like that, as well as the help text will be right in the tool. So probably manuals are gone. We'll keep our quick reference guides, but the long manuals will be a thing of the past. Other things, this is probably the most significant thing at this point, is that tasks are gone. So when people used to upload test scripts and they would get all those ZZZ tasks and try to figure out what to do with them going forward, that's all gone because now we don't have tasks. So now we have our modules and our test scripts, and they're much easier to maintain. A lot of the pages themselves have been redesigned so that they get better performance. This has been for a while now that mostly it was fixed that when you would scroll down to the bottom of a large page, that you might get blank rows at the bottom. And if you scrolled up and scrolled back down, they'd appear. But now that should just be fixed, period. When you do passing of test steps with the click of the pass button, and I forgot I had this on the slide because I have it in my notes too. When you individually pass a step, it used to scroll off the screen, and if people wanted to know like what were the last 3 steps I did, it was hard to get back to them. So now all of the steps that you've passed or that you've logged notes on, they all stay on the screen until you either click the refresh button or leave the page for whatever reason, and then it refreshes it. There's also better support for building reference lists inside of a plan. So if you've set something up as a reference file, you can add something to it just by typing in the new value and pressing enter. Alternatively, if you you can build your reference files in the org settings. The use of double click all over the place before and not consistent is no longer there. So now double clicking will only open a cell for edit, and it's consistent across the page. User settings are completely different now too, and I'll show that in a minute here. So now switching over to TransIT. So this is the TransIT plans page. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on plans because it hasn't changed that much. But if you haven't noticed yet, the menu options look different. So every menu option has its name and has an icon above it. And like I mentioned in my slides, tasks are gone. So the other things to notice here is that there's a new item called modules. Modules are what workflows used to be in the past. We've just renamed it. So modules have always been pieces, workflows have always been pieces of a business process workflow. And so now we've renamed it and called it modules. In the future, there will also be workflows here where you'll have the ability to bring in your workflows of your business processes, and then will help facilitate turning those into actual test scripts. There's now a little icon over here. This is the breadcrumb, by the way. So you'll notice that it says plans here. The plan's name used to be in the center of the screen here. Now on every screen, it'll consistently show your breadcrumb here, with the page you're on being the last item in the breadcrumb. As well, icons are now standardized over onto the right-hand side of the screen. And while I'm here, I might as well also point out that instead of it being your name anymore, it'll be your initial, and clicking your initial will take you to your user settings. Back over here, if I hover on these little buildings, that's your org settings icon now. And if I click that, it takes me into org settings. And you'll notice that users are now underneath the org settings. There's a couple of other things here. We now will be building your a priority matrix. So you'll identify what your impacts and what your severity are of your issues, and then those will automatically generate what the priority is. I'm not going to show that today, but that is coming. So if I click modules now, it's the first area now for content development. So that used to be tasks. Tasks are gone. When you want to build content, you can still upload. You can upload whatever scripts you have. But if you're building things in TransIT, modules are where it's at. So if I go ahead here and I type in patient arrive, anyone who's ever seen me demo knows that this is where I always start my demos. And so filtering to that and clicking on this one here, we're going to look at a patient arriving via ambulance when they're a new patient. So again, very much like workflows always were, a module is a list of test steps. And you can see this one is multi-positional, not the way we typically build out modules, but this is just for example purposes. So in this case, they're doing a pre-arrival document, quick regging the patient, and triaging the patient and putting them in a room. If now I wanted to make a change to this, all I have to do is double click the cell. It opens the cell, you put in whatever information, and you save. So that's similar for actions and outcomes. You just double click and save. And so that's how easy it is now to update a module. So no worrying about the tasks. You just update whatever you want, wherever you want it. The other thing you can obviously do is add or remove rows if they're not needed. So now the next area I'm going to move to is scenarios. And scenarios, and we're still calling them scenarios, but scenarios are your test scripts. And like I said before, they can be built by uploading existing test scripts, or you can build them through the use of modules and connecting steps. They still have two distinct pieces to them, the steps and the scenario header. And we used to teach clients to build the header first. We've now changed that with this new release. So if I'm going to start to create a scenario, I give it a name. And this one's going to be a scenario testing as opposed to functional testing. And this one, we'll say that it's going to be in and out, a treat and release. So I put in my days that I expect to generate, and I click add, next add modules. So this is where you build out your story. So anyone who's worked with the Make Solutions Real resources where we've built out test scripts for you, we always put a gazillion things in the header, including the highlights of the story. And that was to help build the test script in the correct order. So now you actually build it in here in this days page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start typing in the names of the modules I want. And so, of course, I'm going to start with that one that I just showed you. So that's the patient arriving. We saw when we looked at that workflow that the positions are already built, so I don't have to put the positions in. If the positions weren't in it, or if I didn't know, I could just type here to choose the position. So now what's going to happen is the visit is going to get modified to complete the quick reg because the triage was completed. The next thing that's going to happen then is that the assessments are going to start to be done. So first of all, the EDRN assessment will be done, and then the EDMD assessment will be done. And the physician, this was a car accident. I think that they've got some broken bones. So they ordered an x-ray. So the next thing that's going to do, we're going to complete the exam. So this is how you build out your whole story. So you go position by position. What happens next? What happens next? What happens next? When I finish building out my story, I'm then going to say generate scenario steps. And there's my test script. So way easier than whatever we did before. Much, much easier to get your test script going. So if we then want to update any details in here, so say there was something in here that I didn't like or I didn't want, or in here there's like a typo or I missed something, I can just go in and enter it here and put in whatever I want, filling in the header details as I know them. And as soon as I finish editing whatever I want, I just click save, and that's updated here. So this is what people have wanted to do in TransIT forever, is when I get to the scenario and I just want to make a change, I just want to make it here, and I just want to make it in this one place, and I just want to make it simple. So we've completely streamlined all of that. If I go back to scenarios here, I'm going to show you something now that is really actually starting to get a little bit exciting. People have always been not in love with our naming convention, our noun, comma, verb, and trying to figure out how we name things. So in TransIT 7, all of that is gone. Once you've got your script created, if this had been built with modules, the module names would be along here. This is more an example of if you had uploaded test script from existing content and now you want to turn it into modules. All I do is I click the first row and shift click the last row, right click and say generate labels. And I wait a second and it's going to generate an English name for that workflow. I can keep on going through my test script that way and creating my modules. So every time I say generate label, it's going to come up with an English name. So, this one says log into FirstNet and conduct a quick patient registration. So it's very, very friendly, English oriented. And, obviously we've got rid of all the ZZZs. We might as well have a nice naming convention. The next thing that I'm going to show you is the header icon. I don't know if you've noticed that in here, the header icon's over here, but I don't know if you've noticed that in here, by design, it now shows you the literal of the header field and then what you've entered in there. That's only here in the scenarios page. So to get to the header, you just click here. And if I wanted to go in and update that, oops. Then I just enter it. And then when I go back into that scenario, you can see it updates it instantly here. When I get to the test steps page, so in the round of testing, it won't say patient name. It'll just remove that and just be whatever you've entered in the value. But what this has done is eliminate the need for the toggle switch we used to have. So header details are always toggled on.
Hey, Patty.
Uh-huh.
Sorry to jump in, but Elizabeth has a question in chat. Where does it generate the name of the label from? Just from the content of the steps highlighted? That's her question.
Yeah, so, it's using a bit of AI to go and read your steps and figure out what it is in English that you're doing in that section. So we're, becoming more and more AI enabled over time. But today, that's the only piece of AI I'm showing you. Hopefully by next month, they'll be much more like I'm still hoping that we'll be able to go live, either this month or early next month. But again, we're trying to enable features that are going to make it very, very easy for test scripts to be generated. So that first, where I showed you the entering the lists of modules and clicking generate, and here now going and renaming your content once you've uploaded it. That's a little piece of AI in TransIT now. Okay, so now if we go over to testing, there's not much that's changed on the test dashboard, but here in the test rounds page, what we've done is make some of the items be face up. The invites icon isn't there yet because it's not working yet, but it will be shortly. But in the meantime, this is where you would get to the roster, and this is how you would run the test planning report. So no more right click, choose reports, choose the first option, choose the section. They're all right here. So again, trying to make everything much more streamlined and easy to get to. A lot of our right click options are gone and are things that are face up now. So now if we look inside the test steps page, again, you'll notice like the breadcrumb is filling out. There's icons over here. It looks pretty similar to the way it did before. I don't know if you noticed that it did load extremely quickly. So now I'm going to show you something that's very subtle, and hopefully you'll notice the difference. Actually, I think I probably said it in my slide. So when I click the check mark here, it turns to a check mark, but it doesn't disappear from the screen. When I check the second one, it stays there. The third one, it stays there. So it just stays on the screen until I hit my refresh down here, at which time they clear the screen. So that's something that has been a request from multiple clients for a lot of years now, and we're really happy that we've been able to fix that now. If I want to write a note, so there was something in here that I wanted to change, I right click and I do add new note. This is streamlined as well. When you build your user settings, you can default in for the test note what you want the note type to be. So obviously, since 95% of all the notes that are logged are script corrections, in my environment here, I've defaulted it to script. If you've done IT1 and you've done IT2 and now you're doing a round of user acceptance testing, then you might not want it to default to script. You might want it to default to training or something else, but you can change that at any time. And right now I've got it to say script. So all I have to do is enter the information. I can do a screen attachment if I want. It automatically is defaulting to new. Again, you can have it default to anything you want. And I click save. It's right here. I can hover and I can see it here. Another request that we've had for years is the ability to put 2 test notes on the same issue. And so again, if I wanted this to be my training issue on the same step, I can put it right there. When I click save, you see it shows that there's 2 icons, and when I hover, it shows both notes there. So this has been something, like I said, that's been in the development queue for a long time. Issues are new as well. And so if I wanted to log an issue for this next step here, I can pass that one, get it out of the way. If I wanted to log an issue here, I right click and I do log new issue. And it's a much streamlined box. This is still under development. Some of the things might change here. So for example, we might remove assigned from the front page because the person who's logging the issue doesn't necessarily know who to assign it to, but we probably will add in our impact and our severity so that the person who, and obviously it's missing the attachments, and the attachments will be there as well. So, oops. So I go in and I give it a category. And I click create, and that's all that that person needs to do. So, if I hover here, it does show you what the issue is, but in the meantime, the person can keep testing, because although they've documented what's wrong and they put in the attachment, they shouldn't be stopping to do things like figuring out who it needs to be assigned to and all those other things. So that can be done by the testing coordinator in the background. I think what I'll do is stop there and ask if there are any specific questions around anything that I've shown.
Hey, Patty, this is Vikas. I just typed
Hello.
a question. How are you doing? I just typed a question in the chat, but opportune time. So with the issue dialog box, will you have the ability to add any reference text or help bubbles to kind of define what type of data we want people to enter, or to define how to use those,
Yeah, so
urgency or
they aren't here now, but they are like in other places. So absolutely, like they are in transit now. Like there's a little eye icon in current
Yep.
transit where you hover and you can see what so I'm sure that will be added back, but it's not specifically here in the environment now.
Okay, thanks.
When you do, like it is still there. Like if you do custom columns or whatever, then there's those hover icons. And so the answer is yes, it's just not there today for the screen. But so this is the second page of the issue screen. So after the issue has been logged, instead of, delaying the tester, the testing coordinator, or it might be your team leads or whoever, the testing coordinator might go in and say, this is whatever application. And then you would just have them fill in the rest of the details. Again, probably the person who logs it should be putting in the severity and impact, and then the team leader, whoever, can reassess and see if they think that they were correct.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
But yes, hover text will be there. The other thing I don't think I mentioned is that there will also, I guess I did say that the help files will be included. So it's not going to be in your face. The first time you click on something, if you haven't clicked on it, so the first time you click on the modules, there'll be a 1-minute blurb telling you what that page is and the main functionality of the page. And then once you click out of it and go back to that again, it won't pop up again. But then we will have, for the major areas, we will have a way to get back to that information if you're looking for it.
Okay, sounds good. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Are there any questions from anyone else?
I have a question, Patty. It's Christy. The severity and impact, because those are often missed, are we thinking about doing those as mandatory fields or not?
So I think so, yes. And that's why I said, like, right now, they're not on that first page. So right now, if I go here and go into one of the test scripts and I say I want to log an issue, they're not there. But I think they'll be moved forward to this screen. And again, you don't necessarily know who to assign it to. So the yellow fields are required and this one is not required. So this might either stay here or this might get moved to the back. But in the meantime, I'm 95% sure that it's always going to allow you to do the attachment here, and that we're going to put the severity and impact there. I mean, it maybe we put them there and make them not required because some people think that needs to be assessed by somebody else other than the tester, or it might be that we make them required and then, somebody else can reassess them afterwards. But I agree, people don't fill it out if you don't make it required. So it just makes a lot of extra work for the testing coordinator.
Thank you.
Yep. Are there any other questions? If not, I will go back to my slide deck here and just tell you this, we don't have these scheduled yet because we don't have a firm release date. This is so significantly different and will so help those people who've been uploading and re-uploading and re-uploading scripts forever. It will really help people quickly fix their content and make their test script creation so much quicker. We're trying to get the release out as quickly as possible. So when we know the release date, what I plan to do is I plan to schedule 3 different types of classes. There'll be one for admins, so that we can go over the new features and functions in the user settings, etc. One for testing and one for plans, and I will do 3 of each session, and then they'll be posted on our website as well. This matches pretty closely what we did when TransIT 5 came out, because it was a rewrite as well. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about this? I think you can see like the functionality is fairly intuitive. So not necessarily for the people creating test scripts, but for your testers, it should look and feel enough the same that our quick start guide will be fine. And you should be able to, at the beginning of your next test round, say, these are the things that are different and carry on. I mean, I really do believe it's quite intuitive.
Is there any like recommendation to improve, or, you know, like since we were there from the beginning, is there any way to make what we have, the content that's out there, better, or like recommendations on how to?
Oh, for sure. Who is this? Who is this speaking?
It's Beth from Covenant.
Yes. So what I would suggest is if so I think you guys all of your original test scripts were uploaded, so they all had those ZZZs, which made them really ugly and made it hard to maintain. So that'll all be gone. We'll convert your content and all that'll be gone. So I think you've got like 5 or 6 scripts that you use your base integration test scripts. So that's where I showed this, where you're going to go into your scenarios. And the one I was showing, I think, was this one here. And what you'll do is you'll go through and you'll highlight, oh, this looks like a really good workflow. I like this workflow. It was well done. So you'll highlight the first step and go down to the last step, right? And you'll do the generate, and it will give you a name for whatever. Whoops, I missed the RN. You know, you'll just do this and you'll generate it and it'll create that module for you and it'll give it a name.
So
and so what
existing tasks, names and all that will not be there then,
tasks
or
are gone. Tasks are gone. So
okay.
So you'll chunk up, you'll take, like I would start with one test script and chunk it up and create the modules. And so if you chunked it up and you did the registration in the first one, then I would go and replace those steps in your other test scripts with those same steps, right? So, you know, do your ED and do your triage and your depart from the ED and all of those modules, get them chunked out by doing this, and then go in and so in one script, you'll do the naming and then you'll go into the other scripts and replace them.
Okay.
Or you might
so
just
we
feel
will
like
have to do that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, so you're not going to be losing anything. You're going to be gaining the ability to turn them into reusable modules very easily.
Okay.
So it's the task names that are going away. Your steps will all be here.
Okay. But we just have to go in and create modules for all of our current content then. Am I understanding that correctly? Okay.
Right. Unless you still will have the ability to use our content too, like the global content will be there. So you'll be able to search for it and you might look at what's in yours and you might look at our global content and you might think, I might as well use the global content, because what ours has a lot of is the scenario header details in it, right? Whereas a lot of yours might be more straight text. Because with the scenario.
So if this were my scenario and there were global content out there for these steps that you have highlighted, how would I, quote unquote, switch it out?
I can't show that today, but you would like right click here and insert, and you would bring in the module.
Okay.
Oops.
Okay.
So we're
Just trying to
at
understand
Yeah.
for those of us that have been here for a hot minute.
a
how
long
it
time.
will-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why we're breaking the sessions up, right? So, you know, do the admin stuff together, do the plan stuff together, and do the testing stuff together, so that when you're just focused on, okay, what's new for testing and how am I going to fix my testing content going forward, it'll be much easier.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Does anybody have any other questions? For sure, we'll do you know, if it hasn't been released by the time we do our next lunch and learn, then we'll do another whole session around everything that's there, that's ready to go. But I'm hoping we will be able to release before then. I'm hoping it'll be before Thanksgiving. So if we do release before then the whole next session will just be devoted to any questions that people have or concerns that they've had with the new functionality. I really appreciate everyone's time for today, and we're really excited about this, and we hope that you are as well. For sites who aren't using transit plans, hopefully you'll get a chance to go in between now and the time the new code goes live, because it's pretty similar, to start looking at our plans functionality, because I know some sites are using it constantly and some sites haven't started using it at all. Plans are just lists of activities that need to be completed, and they really, really help for things like backloads, cutovers, anything that you track. All right, thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, Patty.
Thanks, Patty.
Thank you.